Yeah, no, there's not a new one.
Thank you so much for coming. I'm hoping to start a whole interview series via Amherst Ballet over the course of the past several weeks during the quarantine, when there were so many new activities popping up online. Some of the things I noticed were interviews popping up dancer to dancer, and I just thought they were so interesting, and there was a candidness about them that was extra interesting, I think, to listen to. Just the stories that they shared, and sort of inside ballet jokes and that sort of thing that you wouldn't necessarily get from a non-dancer interviewing another dancer. And so I thought I would like to start an interview series, and I'm just so honored to have Naomi with us here at the gorgeous Naomi, who just taught a really, really good contemporary class that I could not keep up with. But another thing, so what I wanted to say, and this is very important, is that I had a very difficult time when I was in Romania. And I'm not going to sugarcoat my experiences, but what I want to say is that those experiences have nothing to do with Romania or Romanians at all. The people that I met there were lovely, and I cherish all of my memories there. I would go back and do it all over again. But this is just more about my journey, the things I'm going to be saying about for my half of this interview, leaving a sort of comfort zone, dancing with a company in Cambridge, and just going overseas and having completely different experiences there, and putting myself out into very much a not comfort zone, and what I discovered about myself throughout that process. So anyway, Naomi, would you mind if I had just started asking you questions first?
Just go for it, go for it. I also am not going to sugarcoat. I'm here in the United States because I personally didn't find that it was the place that I needed to be. I'm also very thankful and have such close friends that I've met in that company and will continue to speak to like I speak to, and I love them so much, but I will say that it wasn't right for me, and that's another,
And then, I don't know if this doesn't really matter that much, but Naomi, you're still sharing your computer sound. It's not a big deal, but.
I don't know how to get it. Let me see again.
It's really not a big deal. Oh, and also, if you have photos and videos, feel free to share them. I collected some photos and a video that I can share later when I tell my half of the story.
I tried to email myself some videos and stuff, but I'll see if I can get them.
No, it's no pressure at all. Yeah. Okay, so my first question is just, so why did you go? How did you get this job? How did this happen?
Basically, as you probably know, the dancer life is very much self-advocate, and you need to put yourself out there. And I had probably emailed over 60, 70, maybe to 100 companies in all of Europe. This is kind of off on a tangent, but basically if you're trying to get a job in Europe, or I don't know about the United States, but in Europe, there's a database for all the names of the companies in Europe, and you can go through and they have the contacts, and you send your resume and everything. Most of them won't reply, but you're lucky a few times. The Romanian National Opera happened to be one of the few companies that replied to my message and allowed me to come do a company class as an audition. Obviously, I needed to fly there myself and get my own room and board and everything, but I was able to take a company class as my audition, which was really cool. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about doing auditions this last 3 years, was being able to travel and kind of see new countries, and it just happened to be.
The audition? Did you just go completely alone?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Did you go totally alone?
Yeah, most of my experience in Europe was me just jumping off bridges and going places completely by myself, but I've kind of found to love that actually, or prefer it than traveling with someone else. Yeah, it was a really nice experience. The flight wasn't too bad. It was 3 hours from Madrid, where I was dancing at the time. and I just stayed for 2 nights by myself. I explored the city and I took class with them for 2 days, and then I went home. And I was lucky enough for them to offer me a contributors or collaborators contract, which is what they call their foreigners contract. Um, yeah, because legally they technically aren't supposed to hire foreigners, but they do it as a way to kind of go under paying taxes for the foreigners. So that's what that whole situation was. But
I see.
yeah.
And did you know anyone else there? Did you at all?
No, no, absolutely no one. I'm lucky to, in a sense, have gone to Spain and study there because the Spanish dance community is very much, they look out for each other and they know each other. And if you come from Spain or if you've trained in Spain, you're like family. And there were about 3 or 4 dancers who had come from a school in Barcelona and come from a school in Madrid, actually. So they knew me when I came and introduced myself based off of who I had trained with. And so I kind of like had found my group immediately, luckily, because of that. Yeah.
Okay, good. Cool. And so what was your, so how long were you with the company in total? And this was in Bucharest, correct?
Yeah, I only was there from September to December, so only half of the season, and then I decided not to renew in January.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And what was your experience dancing with the company? What kind of rep did you do? What kind of roles did you do?
Completely classical, first of all. Basically, the company in itself was really, really big. There was probably 100 dancers within that company, ranging from probably about like 15 years old to, I would say, like 50. Like,
Wow.
yeah, people who are still under contract, getting paid more than, that's another issue that I'll go into, but these adults that had been and gone through the company were getting paid a couple thousand more than the dancers who are foreigners who are dancing most of like the roles who are dancing there. Yeah, so we did Nutcracker, we did Swan Lake, we did 2 other Romanian pieces that were just for like rep of the company that I didn't do. I was basically doing core work and like that kind of stuff. To be honest with you, your first 2 months or month, you're not really used a lot. You're learning the rep and you're expected to be in every single rehearsal and like learning every single part. And then from there, they kind of throw you in based off of when somebody gets injured. And if you can hold your own enough, you can stick in that position. And that's kind of like how it worked out, which is one of the reasons for me that I didn't really feel like it was right for me, just because of the fact that I know that's how it works, but it felt almost like swallowing.
Oh, yeah.
Like the company felt so big that I was just lost as like a person, and like I didn't feel valued as an individual or creative at all. I was kind of just like a body that was there for when somebody got injured or something, and I didn't really like how that felt.
I didn't
But
realize it was such a big company, 100 people. I didn't realize it was that. Wow.
There's a lot more people within that company. There's 2 floors of dressing rooms. Like, it is a massive facility with a huge staff. There's 3 studios. It's like a very large like institution, I guess you would call it, which almost makes it a lot easier for you to kind of go under the radar and not feel, unless you're voicing yourself, you're probably not gonna get anywhere, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And what was your living situation?
I was lucky enough. Yeah, I was lucky enough that Romania is a very cheap country, so that like I was able to afford a place by myself. Most everyone in the company was able to afford either a studio apartment or a shared larger apartment with people from the company. I had a 1-bedroom by myself, which for the first time in my life had a whole apartment to myself, going from Madrid with 7 roommates to a really big apartment, like 5 minutes walking from the opera, which was really nice because my life was basically go to dance in the morning, dance all day, come home, I'm tired, and I go to bed. So it was just really nice to have those like so close by.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's funny. That's the same thing that happened to me. It was the first time I ever had a place of my own.
Yeah.
Actually, the company paid for our living situation, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and what did you do in your free time?
Not to say that I had a lot of free time, because of the fact that we rehearsed from Monday to Sunday, and then we occasionally had Tuesdays off. So we didn't really have off time, or if we did have off time, we were too tired. But the thing with that was that most of the time, those rehearsals that we're all expected to be there, we're not doing much. We're just there. You take class and you're just there, which
That can be more
yeah, it's a little bit draining. It's like you don't have a life outside of ballet. But I found myself walking a lot, painting a lot in my free time. I was going home and I was painting, or I would just walk around the city. I happen to know Bucharest like the back of my hand now, just every day after class, just going for circles and walks.
same thing.
Yeah. But culturally, I didn't find like there was a lot of kind of like extracurriculars happening all the time. It was either people go drinking or they go to a park, and that's like about it.
Yeah. What was I going to say? So, were there any experiences that you had there, either with the company or outside of the company, that shaped you in any way?
I mean, I would definitely say the whole experience made me realize what I really want to do. And I kind of felt like I was almost going there just to prove myself that I could do it, or that I could join a classical company and that I could make that happen for myself. But I realized while I was there that it wasn't what was best for me, because coming from Spain, where it's another very strict world, very old fashioned, I was always told like my legs were too big for ballet, or that I was too tall for ballet, or that my skin wasn't right for ballet, or whatever it be about me that wasn't like. I had a teacher tell me that, oh, you'll never make it in the ballet world, but you'd be pretty okay at contemporary. Or like at my lowest weight, being told that I still need to like lose more weight, or that they would thought I would get into shape, just got really old for me. And so being there and just like constantly feeling this pressure, or just feeling like I didn't, like it didn't feel right. I was the tallest one in the company. I was the only person of color in the company. I think that played a huge part for me. Also, the lack of, I'm trying to be careful, because obviously I don't want to like reflect badly on Romania as a whole, but their mentality is a little bit different about women than ours is here in America, especially what a woman's place is. And I think for me, I'm a very outspoken, strong, like I have opinions and I like to share them, or like I'm very secure in myself. And I was often told to like silence myself, or kind of be more feminine, or, like do these things. And I just like didn't want it. Like I just like, this is not what I want. So I would go home and I would like improv and like make work that was mine. And that was the only thing that I really found that I like enjoyed doing while I was there. So
Well, your choreography is beautiful. Did you have an interest in choreography before you went?
yeah, actually when I was about 14, like I got to choreograph my first piece with Dance Theater of Harlem at their summer intensive, and I won the award at 14 with like a whole camp. And then from there it was like this like spark in me that I was able to kind of like work on while I was here at Amherst Ballet, because in the past they had smaller like opportunities where I could create pieces, and I was always jumping on that. And then my senior year of high school, I was in Catalyst at PVPA, and I sent one of my pieces to the National High School Dance Festival, and I won second place at nationals. So for me, like choreography has always been something that like I've enjoyed and like been strong at, but I've never known how to come from a ballet background and like apply it, which is more what I'm trying to do now, I guess, move more into that direction. Yeah, and that experience definitely shaped me into being like, I don't want this. Like, I don't want this. Yeah.
That makes total sense. Um, so how did it feel to come back to the United States?
Um, I have like mixed feelings about it. Honestly, part of me feels like I'm back at square one, like coming home and being in my bed with like my family, and just not feeling like I have anything to show for it, because I didn't go to university. I went to conservatory, and the school actually closed, so we were never able to get our diplomas. They went out of business, and the company also closed down. So coming back and like just not feeling like I had anything to show for myself.
You're very young yet, so you You've got plenty of time to do stuff, but I understand the sentiment.
Yeah. Just sort of like I had to remind myself that this is not a normal situation, and yeah.
So I guess part of my question in asking that is, do you think that, are you intending to continue dancing professionally at a different company? And if so, would it be one abroad or one in the States, or are you not sure yet?
So my plan is actually to like go to Berlin and go into freelancing, teaching and doing choreography, but in the meantime also audition for companies. I don't think it's more so a goal for me now as it is like if it happens, like cool, I'm gonna still like do auditions just because like I enjoy taking them as classes and I enjoy meeting people and like doing that kind of thing. But I'm not so much set on it because it's not where like my passion is anymore. I've realized I also just never, like, this sounds horrible as a ballet dancer, I've never liked performing. Like, I really enjoy the everyday, like almost like meditation state, like of like waking up, and that's the first thing you do, and like you get your mind and your body right. That for me has become like medicine. Like at this point, it's like a daily meditation that sets me up where I need to be. So I want to continue taking class surely every single day, like I've been doing here, thankfully, with this space. But I'm not sure if I kind of see myself stronger in a leadership position rather than as a dancer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna try to tell my story really quickly. And Naomi, I would love for you to, if there's anything you see that resonates with you in the pictures or anything I say that resonates with you, please feel free to chime in. So I'm gonna start. I tried to come up with some photos that kind of tell the story from beginning to end. So I'm gonna screen share for a second, and I created a little album on Facebook. So just oh, Naomi, would you mind just stopping your sound share? If you go to, hold on, I don't think you have to, hold on.
Just a second.
Oh, so sorry. No, it's okay. It says I can do it even if you don't stop it.
I'm just very technically.
So am I. So
you should be able to do it now.
Thank you. All right. So my story began in around 2013. I had been dancing with Jose Mateo Ballet Theater since 2004. And this had become my main partner. And we danced pretty much exclusively together. Can you see the picture? Yeah, okay. And we got to dance all kinds of very dramatic romantic roles together for about 3 years. And at a certain point, after we did this program in Prague called Prague Masterclass, which I would highly recommend, we decided that we wanted to leave the company and explore companies abroad. And I was feeling fairly confident in my abilities at that point. And I say that tentatively because it took me a very long time to get any confidence at all after my training in San Francisco. But at this point, I had been, the Boston Globe would come review us every 6 weeks, and I had been getting positive reviews in the Boston Globe for several years. And so I was feeling like, okay, maybe I don't suck that bad. So this is where it started. And long story short, the night before we were supposed to leave, my partner, who I actually was also dating at the time, told me, I'm actually not going to go. And I was like, what? And the company in Transylvania, so this wasn't in Bucharest, it was in a smaller medieval town in Transylvania called Sibiu. They said, well, we didn't want you, Madeline, we wanted him. So we thought we only hired you because he said he wasn't going to come if you didn't go. So they never wanted me in the first place. And here I was getting on a plane alone on Halloween. Okay, I moved to Halloween. I moved to Transylvania on Halloween by myself, and I was completely devastated. I was brokenhearted. That would be an understatement, that he wasn't going to go with me. So anyway, I just said, still gonna go. So I arrived, and they were very, very disappointed that I was showing up by myself. And Romania is a gorgeous country. However, the view that I had from my particular room was this. It was a pile of broken wheelchairs that I would wake up to every morning, and it was difficult for me. I think it's realistic to say I was going through depression. I didn't have any appetite. I couldn't remember choreography. My mind was, I was not doing well. So this is how I started out, and I had 2 days to learn a core role in Don Quixote, which I managed to do somehow. This was my other view out of my window. This was the Carpathian Mountains. It was just absolutely gorgeous. So if you look above the wheelchairs, this is what I would see every night. So, all right, I'm gonna take a pause from the pictures for a second. So anyway, the company had a very traditional director at the time. And he taught a very classical Vaganova type of class, which I thought I would be quite well suited for. Well, that turned out not to be the case. And the director ended up just hating everything about me, just everything about me. And I just, because I was out of it mentally, I was kind of going on autopilot. And that meant that, I don't know, I was dancing in a very American way that he hated. And it would get to the point where every day he would give a speech to the whole company during class or rehearsal about basically what a failure I was. And then I accidentally was doing frappes striking the floor with my point shoes on, and I would always take class on point. And he got very upset because he thought that I was defying him or something, when really I just wasn't thinking. And so he took away my point shoe privileges. And what that meant is that I couldn't take class or rehearse on point anymore, but I was still expected to perform on point. So I lost a lot of ankle strength, as you can imagine. And then I would have to go try to perform and hold my own in the core. And I couldn't keep up. And then we would watch these videos, and he would he would say to the whole company, look at her, look how terrible she was. And I was already going through a lot. And then to have this man just really coming down so hard on me every day was too much. And then on top of that, you know, I had gone from doing principal roles with the company for almost 10 years at that point, Sugar Plum, Fouettes, all of that stuff, to getting into this company where I was 31, and everyone was like, oh, she's older. Yeah, no, and they would say to me, you did Sugar Plum? And I was like, yeah, believe it or not. And I was treated like I was old and like I was worthless, really. And I should say about the company that it was a mix of different people from all over the world. Japanese, American, Romanian. So again, this is not anything against Romanians or anything like that. It was just the culture at the time. So it was really difficult for me to go from being in that position where I was respected to go to this core member who couldn't remember the steps and who no one respected. It was really embarrassing, and it was hard for me. I just couldn't keep up. So then I'm gonna go back to the pictures here. Oh, and there were other things too, where this one girl in the company, for whatever reason, just really thought I was pathetic, and I would have to practice a lot on my own alone in the studios after everyone else went home. And she would come to the studio and she would turn the lights off and slam the door and go running down the hallway laughing, just to embarrass me, I guess. So there were definitely
relate to that kind of like treatment behavior, not just like for me personally, but seeing it, like the cattiness inside the companies of these people who a lot of times like have gone through school like only in Romania, only gone to, or I don't know about how your company was, but at least there was a lot of like cattiness and groupiness, just because they're very almost like sheltered, and the only form of entertainment is to bother each other rather than, you know, And I definitely can see that like you're old, you're worthless kind of mentality, because they had that the same. It was like once you hit 25, you're done.
Yeah.
You're old and you're withered up and you can't be used anymore. Sticker in the back. Like, yeah.
I felt really like I was at the height of my career. And then I was like, wait a minute, I'm old? That happened so quickly. So going back to the pictures. So one of the really cool things about dancing there is that if you are a dancer, you are considered an agent of the government. And that meant that I could go to the opera for free, the symphony for free, all of the museums for free, plays for free, any cultural activity you can think of, you get a free pass for free. And the dancers in the company at that time were really not interested in doing any of that stuff. And so I would just wander the streets at night by myself. So these are some of the pictures. This is where I lived. And I would go to museums, and at that time it was the slow time of year, so I would have the whole museum to myself. I would be completely alone because it wasn't tourist season. And then I would stay out very late, and I would walk home, at around midnight. And there are all these wild dogs that live around, and every night I would come home, and there would be this pack of wild dogs that would form around me. And I was kind of afraid because they would be barking and growling. And then I realized, I better not run away. I better just run with them. And so
I'm sorry, I forgot about the wild dogs until you said that. And now I'm remembering all the cats and the dogs that were just in the street constantly. Like,
so I would run home with the dogs every night in the fog like this. And it was, I really liked that. That was cool. Anyway, just some other pictures that I took. This is me, old, scraggly me. I took up photography. It was an outlet for me, so I took a lot of pictures. This is me in Don Q. This is just some of the architecture. Oh, and then there was this dog that followed me around that looked uncannily like my dog Banjo, and that he would follow me everywhere. And I just felt like, my God, this is a sign of something. I don't know what. So there was that dog. This is me taking more pictures. This is in the museum alone. So part of my outlet for dealing with this director who was mistreating me so much, I needed to find something to do. And so I noticed that there was an archery range down the street from where I lived. And so I just started going, and I learned archery, and I got better and better at it over the months. And for me, I realized looking at it now that it looks, it's weaponry, but for me, it wasn't that at all. For me, it was actually very meditative, because while I was focusing, while I was aiming the arrow at the target, I couldn't think of anything else that was bothering me at all. And so it became like this very calming practice for me to go and practice archery every day. So I did that. Oh, here's one of the, this is one of the roles that I got to do. I was supposed to be a hippopotamus. And the end, you can't tell, but from the side, it was this cage that came out of your face with a little light up nose at the end. So that was one of my roles. And they barely gave me any roles. They just didn't believe in me at all. Oh, this is a cool picture at night in Transylvania, the birds. Oh, that's another story. I fell down and hurt my hand. Hold on, I want to go back to the gallery. So eventually I stuck it out long enough. I stuck it out for 7 months. And by the end, I got to do a lead role. They gave me a lead role in the Four Seasons, actually, which we'll be dancing to in a few months. And so they finally gave me a chance. And they said, I guess she can't do a lot of pirouettes, and she doesn't always have the greatest extensions, but she can do something. And they gave me a chance, and so I got to do a couple pas de deux within this piece and a couple solos. And then right before I left, the director, who had hated me so much, said, you danced that pas de deux very well. And I was like, thank you. A compliment from him was like worth its weight in gold. So I was really glad. And then after that, I just was so homesick. I just said, I have to go home. So, well, I ended up not going home. So what I ended up doing is I got so into archery that I went to this place in Bulgaria called the Way of the Horse and Bow. And this was where I lived. There was no electricity. There was no internet. This was my little yurt that I lived in while I studied horseback archery. For me, horseback archery and archery was something I needed so badly at that time in my life, because this was the area it was in. It was so beautiful. That's me. Because for me, it just symbolized fearlessness, and not being at anyone's mercy, and also not caring what anyone thought, because a lot of people might think I look completely insane. And there was just this element of total freedom and fearlessness that came with horseback archery for me. So I studied it for a while. I will say that horse in the picture is moving very slowly. So I did that for a while and I loved it. I traveled around a lot on my own. Also, I went to Berlin and kind of all over. And it was really beautiful. This was inside, where I got to have my own little candlelit table. And every morning, this was my alarm clock. This horse would come and sniff my door. And that meant I had to get up and shoot 100 arrows before breakfast. That's what you had to do. So anyway, I don't want to talk for too much longer because I want to open it up. Oh, just to explain what this picture is, this is the last picture in the series. I went to stay with my brothers who live in Germany, and they are big skateboarders. So I went to visit them for a while, and I went skateboarding, and that's what happened. I still have the scars, but I love the scars because it brings me back to a time in my life where I just felt so free and so kind of empowered, actually, and traveling on my own. It was just such a great time for me that I don't mind the scars on my hand. Let's see if there's any other pictures I'm overlooking. Okay, I'm gonna stop this share now.
Super funny about the skateboarding, just because my brother's a skateboarder also, and I found myself after I came home from Romania learning from him how to skateboard and like completely falling in love with it, even though it's the one thing they tell you never to do with ballet, but it's so free feeling and it feels so fun. Like
that's
it's
so
good.
interesting.
And it's also cardio, a little cardio.
And so to sort of wrap up my side of the story, even though I went through so many difficult experiences there, I'm really glad that I went. It definitely helped shape who I am. I did come back and I rejoined Jose Mateo Ballet Theater, where I had been dancing, and I loved it so much. I mean, Jose Mateo is he just treats all of his dancers with such respect, and he would never, humiliate anyone or anything like that. And so I did rejoin, and I was happy to rejoin. But I'm glad that I went. I kind of wished I had stayed longer. I feel like I might have gotten to do some more roles here and there. But I missed my dog and I missed home. And so in the end, yeah, it was truly life-changing. I don't know if there's any pictures or videos you'd like to show, Naomi, and I would like to open up if anyone has questions for Naomi or myself about the experience.
I tried to email my photos to myself, and for some reason they're not sending.
That's okay.
I have a question for both of you, because you both mentioned your training, Naomi, you in Spain and Madeline, you in San Francisco. Could you just talk a little bit, I know there's not that much time, but briefly about that and how that was different from your time in Romania? I guess I'm just interested in dancing in different countries, or I don't know what the schools were like.
Yeah, go ahead, Naomi.
I will say that I was fortunate in the sense that European ballet in general is more or less kind of the same. So for me, I kind of was very well set up to go into that company just because of my training at Victor Yette. Yeah, I personally feel like going to Europe to dance, even just for school, was the best decision I have made. I don't think I would be able to even consider dancing professionally if I hadn't gone to that type of intense school, which is more so what I personally needed because of like the discipline and the perfection in the technique. I guess I work better under that kind of like scrutiny or that strictness. Some other people kind of tend to wilt and they need a different kind of like learning. And for me, the strictness and the humiliation humbled me in a way that made me a better dancer. Now as an adult, as a humbled adult, I can't say that I want to be humiliated, but I will say that it's necessary to kind of like bring you down to reality at a certain point for a little while in the right way. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, at San Francisco Ballet, we had a mix of styles. We had teachers from all over the world, and so we were always getting a different style with every teacher, which I love, and that's part of the reason I try not to impose a style on my students. But I had had Russian teachers for so long there that I thought I was prepared to do traditional Vaganova, but boy, was I wrong. Oh, wow, was I wrong. One of the main things that the director hated about me was that I guess I project my rib cage a lot. It's not on purpose. It's just part of my training is to project my chest and my rib cage. And he, in traditional Vaganova training, at least the way he was teaching it, he wanted the ribs always closed and always never opening or splaying. And for me, I realized it was part of how I used my upper body expressively, and I felt like I couldn't do that anymore. And he would give these speeches about how Madeline puffs up her chest all the time because she thinks she's so great. I'm like, no, I just have a big rib cage. It was so. To answer your question, Noe, which is a good one, I think San Francisco Ballet did prepare me in several good ways for the life of being a dancer, but not necessarily for dancing for a classical company like that was. Yeah. Are there any other questions or observations? I'm trying to think of any other anecdotes I have. I can show, if you're interested, I can show the one of the pas de deux that I got to do in the end, set to Vivaldi's Autumn. And it's only about 3 minutes, if you'd like to see it. All right, hold on a second. sort of, thank you for watching. To sort of sum up my experience there, and Naomi, feel free to do the same. It has sort of turned into a running theme for me throughout my whole life. And I might be giving a talk. It's called a Pechakucha talk. It's sort of like a TED talk, only shorter. And I think I might use this as the theme. But I would say that the main thing I took away from Romania was that you don't have to be perfect to be a professional dancer. And you don't have to be perfect to be a dancer. And my experience there, where they were really only evaluating me on my ability to do perfect pirouettes and have high extensions and all of those things, it forced me to really have to showcase what I can do and dig deep for qualities that make me different. And I knew that I had them. I didn't have to prove myself that hard before, but when I was there, it forced me to really re-examine what those qualities are, and then be proud of them, and then show them. And then it took a while, but eventually they were seen, and it turned me into a much stronger dancer in that respect, because on the days that I couldn't turn or I didn't have high extensions, I had all of these other skills and qualities that I could always fall back on. Naomi, is there anything?
Yeah, I think I definitely can agree with that, in the sense that, like, when you join such a big company, obviously nobody is the same, and you find things about everyone that are beautiful and that you appreciate. And I think that just knowing that you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that's like completely fine, and just kind of like falling in love more with myself, like as a human being and as a dancer and as like a whole person. That's more so what I took from that experience, is that I was so swallowed by a company that I was left with nothing like but myself. So I was forced to kind of like fall in love with my abilities as a dancer, and kind of like go and use, like you said, like the little things that make me different, or the little things that, you know, somebody may not like, but somebody else really, really loves. Like I had one teacher who was like, loved me. I was in the core. I was at the bottom of the company, but every day would tell me to come to the front. And then every single other teacher hated my guts, like thought I was like, why is she here? You know, it's like, you will not be everyone's favorite dancer, but if you continue dancing for you, somebody will see it, and somebody will, you know, want you or take you. Just keep going and advocate for yourself. That was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah. Any other last questions? Okay. Naomi, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for the class, and thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you have a beautiful Tuesday night, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.